the pain is only temporary. The suffering is optional. And what happened in the pain become my identity, so the suffering become who I am.
So I think when you walk through a painful moment, I had a painful moment this week. It was a hard moment. And I'm just like, I can choose to get triggered and react, or I can respond. It's our job to be obedient. It's God's job to build your business. God's the one that sends you people. It's not you.
Like whoever's listening, it doesn't matter how old are you. Even if you were like me, until they're 48, 50 years old, I did it alone. That shit doesn't work. It doesn't work.
In theology, what I learned in Bible college is we're born into the curse of Adam, which would be sin. And people are like, what does that mean? I'm like, how many of you guys have 2-year-olds in the audience? How many of you guys had to teach your 2-year-old to snatch a toy out of another kid's hand and go, mine?
Welcome to Mastering the Inner and Outer Wealth with your host, Jarek Tadla, where we dive deep into the art of building freedom from the inside out. Together, we'll uncover practical strategies, real-life success stories, and expert insights to help you master your inner wealth and create the life you've always wanted. So let's get started.
Thank you for joining the show today on the Master Inner Wealth and Outer Wealth. We have Ken Joslin, who is a very successful entrepreneur. He also was a pastor. No, you still are.
A pastor now. I'm just pastor high-performing business.
Yes, and real estate entrepreneur, real estate broker, and now the big movement, which I do really want to talk about your the stock drive, growth stock drive. Mm-hmm. I want to talk to you about that, which is like, I'm very glad that before we even sit down, you told me there was like a 5 things that you guys talk about and you guys address. Can you tell me those 5?
Yeah, core 5 framework. And this is why this is important. Core 5 framework for faith-based entrepreneurs is faith, health, relationships, business, and finances. And it's funny because everybody who comes into our ecosystem, we host the largest faith-based entrepreneur conference in America. Everybody comes thinking they're there for business or finances. Yep. And God usually rocks their world because it's normally faith, health, or relationships, or a combination of the 3. And kind of how I explain it, Jarek, is that faith, health, and relationships, it's really the foundation that you build, that you give God an opportunity to build a foundation so you can actually build a great business and establish wealth. And if you don't have faith, health, and relationships in alignment, it's hard to grow. It's hard to grow a business anyway, as you know. But if you don't have those areas in alignment, dude, it's...
How did it happen? How did you just went from one journey to another How did it happen? And now you just, and I love what you said. It's like, we just did the pre-podcast before we started. Like you said, how many people want to influence, and the influence depends like how much pain you go through.
Yeah. Craig Rochelle, Pastor Craig, we had dinner with Craig, and he said, he asked all these church planners and these pastors, what do you want? And everybody's like, influence. We want to make a difference for the kingdom. And he said, guys, your level of impact and influence will only be equivalent to your ability to tolerate pain.
How much pain did you tolerate?
So, my goodness, dude.
We want to hear your story, brother.
27-year marriage ended. Hard after I was in ministry for a long time. Hardest thing I've ever been through.
How many kids?
4. I've got 4 daughters. So 29-year-old. I've got the most ridiculously gorgeous grandbaby. I've got one grandbaby. She's 15 months old, 26, 22, almost 22, and almost 17. My girls are amazing, but it's just, it's a season of learning. And that's what I was telling you earlier when we were sitting outside, just how much I love your journey and your authenticity of talking about the pain and the trauma, because you can't go through life unscathed. Like every single one of us face things. And a lot of times you want to jump into pain. Right after my divorce was final, about 3.5, 4 years ago, I walk into a therapy appointment with Maxine. I tell people, if you've seen any of the Tyler Perry movies, she's a mild version of Medea. She's like this older black lady that is hilarious. You walk in and she's like, how you and Jesus doing? You and Jesus doing good this week? I'm like, Maxine, me and Jesus doing great. And she's, you sit down with a therapist and she's like, tell me your story. I said, okay. I said, I born in Detroit, raised in Pontiac. Parents got divorced when I was 8. My mom moved us to the Atlanta area, 2nd grade. From the time I was in my 6th grade year to my senior year of high school, I moved back and forth to my dad 6 different times. And she's got her glasses on in her nose, and she's writing in her book. She's like, good Lord, honey, why'd you move so many times? I said, Maxine, I didn't have a choice. I said, anytime I got in trouble, my mother would tell me to go pack my bag. And I had 24 to 48 hours, and I was on a bus, a plane, or my dad was on the way to pick me up. And outside of the day I gave my life to Christ in August of 1993, this was the biggest aha moment I've ever had. And she looked at me and she said, Ken, how do you think that's affected your relationship with the women in your life who are supposed to love and protect you? Dude, I lost it. 3 weeks before that, I was dating a girl in California and I loved very much. I flew into San Francisco. She lived in Santa Rosa. She had a restaurant. We didn't even make it across the bridge, headed north. We had an argument. I made her pull the car over. I got my suitcase out and I left. And he was a 52-year-old man living out the trauma of a 12-year-old boy, except now you weren't going to tell me to leave. I was going to leave before you told me.
Well, since we're on it, because a lot of times we want to protect ourselves. We don't want to go through the same betrayal again.
That's right.
And the disappointment. So what happened is we hurt people or we just disengage. And I've been there. So I can relate to it. I can relate to it. You know what I mean? And everybody's got a different story. So what happened, we don't allow it. So it's like, let me do it before I get hurt.
And a lot of times we I was angry with God for months, literally 2 to 3 months, because I'm like, God, I pastored for 13 years. I've been to therapy. I've been through all that. I had no idea that trauma was even in my life until she explained it to me. And then I just walked through about a 3 to 3.5 year journey of somatic therapy, NLP, just regular therapy with my therapist, just walking through, how on somatic therapy, when I get triggered, how do I control and regulate my nervous system? Like so much therapy going, oh, wow, like these things have been a constant my entire life. And it all went back to when I was 12 years old and I had no idea.
Why do we have men? Because it's like we don't connect emotionally for so long until something traumatic, like, hardship happened. Yeah. Why do you think that is? Because women connect emotionally, like, with faith, because like for me, I was living into my head. Mm-hmm. So I never connected, spiritually, with my soul, with my heart. I was living out of my head, mm-hmm. and it didn't serve me. Mm-hmm. And what happened, because I have all this trauma, and I'm telling you, it's conscious or unconscious, like all those guys mm-hmm. hurt me, like parents, mm-hmm. teachers, coaches, pastors, priests, friends, but like I didn't know that. Yeah. So I was never dealing with this stuff. So what happened is I was putting this under the carpet, and suddenly something happened. Boom.
Well, you blow up.
Like, dude, and like you said, like I'm freaking 48 years old kid. Yeah. I mean, man.
Yeah, I was 52 years old. It was 4 years ago.
Dude, and I have no idea how to deal with this stuff.
Yeah, I had no idea it was there. Uh-huh. And when she asked me that question, how do you think that's affected your life? How do you think that's affected your relationships to the women who are supposed to love and protect you? And it was like, holy cow. And that started me on my journey of, oh, wow, I've got some trauma, some unresolved trauma that I didn't even know about. All to the point, just in the journey of doing somatic therapy with Lauren, to reading a book by G.S. Youngblood called The Masculine in Relationship. And in The Masculine in Relationship, there's a chapter where he talks about unresolved trauma. And you just said it about women. He goes, in the book, he talks about how women are emotional creatures. They're mm-hmm. going to get, you're going to have an argument with your wife. They're going to get emotional quick. Our job as men is to hold space so they feel safe, seen, and heard.
I didn't even know what holding space means.
Listen to this, bro.
I have no freaking idea. So it's
I had no idea.
When somebody told me hold space, like, what the fuck it means hold space?
Right.
Like, I didn't realize, you know what I mean?
I'm reading this book, and he's talking about holding space, and then he said this. And these were the lines I was like, and this was probably 8 months into my healing journey. I'm literally, when I got this, and this is what he said in the book. He said, if as a man, you feel the need to defend or explain when your partner or your wife gets elevated, it's a sign of unresolved trauma. That's all I did. Oh, no, that's not what I'm saying. I defended and explained every time. And that's when I realized, wow, I had no ability or no idea that even what holding space meant. Dude, I'm sitting at my first conference in January of 2020, first Create conference we ever had. John Maxwell's on my stage. And I'm sitting there in my seat watching John, I've known for 25 years. And God said, you need to send her an email. And I'm sitting there in my own conference. I screenshot it. I listened to the Way the Masculine or Masculine Relationship on Audible. I picked up my iPhone. I took a screenshot of my notes that I made. And I took a screenshot of that page and I emailed it to my ex-wife. And I said, hey, I'm really sorry. I did not know how to do this while we were married. And it was part of the healing journey for me of acknowledging, man, I had no idea this was something that was even possible for me to be able to do. to hold space and not feel the need to defend or excuse why she was getting elevated or angry with me.
So do you think like we are so defensive and we want to, defend ourselves because we truly defending ourselves within, like when we alone with our own thoughts, we run the dialogue inside our head and we really, and what happened is that becomes our identity.
Yeah.
So when I start believing in my pain, what happened, the pain is only temporary. The suffering is optional. And what happened, the pain become my identity, so the suffering become who I am. And then I couldn't resolve it. And I have to hear it so many freaking times, because it's like alcoholic going through, like you cannot help alcoholic or you cannot somebody with trauma. It's like, dude, you have a problem with alcohol? No, I don't.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Oh, no.
No, I don't. Until because if my healing did not started until I was so sick of it.
Yeah.
Because the emotional pain, everything compounded for so many years and actually blew out. So when was your a bottom of the bottom, looking back?
Well, I think that moment with my therapist, when Maxine said that to me that day, how do you think this has affected your relationship with the women in your life you're supposed to love and protect? It was outside of giving my life to Christ, August 22nd, 1993, it was the biggest aha moment I've ever had in my life. Still, to this day, second biggest aha moment.
How did that happen?
It was God just revealed it to me. I was just she asked me that question. I'm like, holy cow. I have been living with this trauma for 40 years. And I had no idea. I was in full-time ministry for 13 years. Grew one of the largest youth ministries in the country around 2000. God was using me in unbelievable ways. And I had no idea the trauma was even there. That's why I was angry with God. I'm like, how in the world have I been going to counseling, going to therapy, and I still had no idea all these years this trauma was there?
Because you were not ready to hear it.
But 100%. And
something we're not ready. Everybody can tell. Everybody could tell me all this shit. It's funny because you also asked me about the Ironman. But when I got divorced, then after my divorce was finalized, I went crazy. I start partying. I start drinking. I start doing all this stuff. Suddenly, my friends, it's like they have an intervention with the addict, right? And they go, it's like, dude, we got to sit down. I think you party and you're drinking too much. I'm like, seriously? I've been hiding. I've been sedating with work for years. Nobody says shit to me because there was the results. That was everybody was successful. Yeah. Then I was doing Ironman, winning Ironman. I was winning competition. And then I trained 80 to 100 hours a week. And then, but the only thing, I was escaping reality. Yeah. I was sedating, so I don't want to deal with my pain. And suddenly, because by rules of society, drinking is bad, and now after a few months, you want to have an intervention with me? Go fuck off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where were you 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Where were you 30 years ago? I've been living this life. I was always escaping something, and I'm still in the journey. That's why I'm doing the podcast. That's my mission because I don't want anybody to go through it because the pain it's like the endurance sports. The physical pain it's painful enough that it just covers the emotional pain. But there's nothing more painful than emotional pain. You know what I mean? And truly, we don't know the answers. We don't know how to find the answers until we get somebody in our steps.
Yeah, and I think it's Jarek. I think the beautiful part of this is it's the journey that God takes us on. If you look through Scripture from David to Paul to Peter to Jesus's journey, you're outside of Jesus. All those other guys, they were just broken men, just like you and I are. And that's the beauty in the journey is who is God desiring for me to become? And it's part of the becoming. It's part of the learning. It's part of, and I've got 5 affirmations that I do every day. One of my affirmations is I am whole. I choose to use past pain to help others find healing. So when I have something that happens in my life that's painful and hurts, I go, okay, God, I don't get it. I don't understand it. But I know that you're going to use this experience that I went through, you just said it, to help somebody in the future so they don't have to go through the same level of pain that I went through. I can help them circumvent a lot of months or years even of pain and heartache and help them.
But a lot of them are not ready to listen.
Yeah, 100%. You're right.
And we cannot stop our mission.
Yeah.
We got to continue growing. We got to continue giving. We got to continue to serve. And that's it. And those people, there might be thousands of people listening to right now, and then only one person might get it. Yeah. It's like, is he talking to me? Is it me? It's you, brother. Yeah. It's like, like I always like when I get on the stage, I always say like, you're going to get here not what you want, what you need. Because it's like a lot of us, we don't know what we need. We all know what we want. But what we need is really like, we have all the answers within us. And I always tell everybody, we got all the answers within us. They've been taken away by the programming our brain, our subconscious mind, our conscious mind, and then we just write our own story.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's important to have amazing relationships. When you have amazing people, Proverbs 27:17 says iron sharpens iron. And you have to have those type of relationships in your life to where, like you did, your friends came to you and went, hey, bud, like we see this going on in your life and this isn't good. Like you've got to have people that care about you and love you enough to be able to share truth with you. And when you get to a place where you have enough people in your corner, I would say, which is like 3 to 5 relationships that really have a 10,000 foot view of what's going on in your life. When you have those type of relationships and you're open to, hey, if you see, I just hired a new director of operations last week. We're on a Zoom call yesterday. I'm sitting at the beach and we're on a Zoom call. And she goes, Ken, how do you need me to come to you on certain things? And I said, Rakia, if you see something that I need feedback, I'm giving you 100% permission. You come to me with anything you've got. Because I can't do what God's called me to do. I can't be the dad God's called me to be, the entrepreneur God's called me to be, the friend God's called me to be, the grandfather I can't be all those things unless I have people that will speak truth into my life. And I want that. But you have to get to a point in your life to where you're open to people speaking, because sometimes it can be very painful.
How do you pick that you got the right person, like the right people?
Psalms 37 says the footsteps of a righteous person.
For me, there was a lot of years that I did not got the right people.
Yeah.
Like I'll give you an example, Ken, and I don't want to be devil advocate, but I do for the audience.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you not drinking? What's wrong with you? You have a problem?
Yeah.
Like, dude, I don't want to drink. Yeah. But why? I mean, we go now, we're doing this. Like, dude, just leave me alone. Like, do you know what I mean? Dude, fun when you don't drink. This is like, dude, this is, it's, and a lot of times I give in. Mm-hmm. And then I was going back to the same rabbit hole, you know what I mean? And I was like, shit, I'm miserable. Yeah. Like, I don't like my thoughts, I don't like my, how my brain works. I don't like my, I'm getting depression, anxiety.
And then you start to gain a resentment towards the same people that you want in your life.
Yeah. And it's hard. Like for me, it was too hard to leave the bubble, and I need to surround myself with people that are truly, they want good for me. And it's not easy because I was surrounded by thousands. Like I always, when I almost commit suicide, I had everything. I mean, I was physically strong, mentally strong, spiritually strong, mentally strong, physically strong, financially strong. I have relationships. I have thousands of people. My bubble was humongous, but I was hiding. And I was embarrassed to say anything to anybody. Like I had this poker face, and it's like nobody knew what is going on right here. Yeah. And I'm like, freaking,
you have to find relationships, and it's a risk. And you're a businessman. You know what risk is all about.
But that's what I went to therapy, because I know if I don't like the therapist, I can leave.
That's right.
But I cannot tell my friend that knows me for 30 years because he's going to judge me.
Yeah.
And then I cannot leave my friend.
Yeah.
But I can tell my therapist, and suddenly like I change my mind. I don't like it, or I don't like the therapist, or I can leave. That's why I start joining a lot of masterminds. And then if I get judged, it was a process to go through it. And then when I got validation that there are people out there, suddenly I start opening the people that I know for years.
Yeah.
Because I was scared that I'm going to be judged. And then, if I told this to my parents, my parents, brother, I mean, they love me, dude. Yeah, yeah. They don't want to go through the pain. Like, I cannot take this shit away.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, when I was getting through divorce, I was venting to my parents, and I just realized how much pain that gives to my parents. So then I literally stopped lying. How you doing? Good. You know, I was like, you know, what is going on in the good.
Yeah.
You know, because I didn't want to cause them the pain. So going back with giving, so that's why you help so many people, right?
Yeah, it's my affirmation. I'm whole. I choose to use past pain to help others find healing.
Okay.
And it's
the next 3 because you didn't finish the
Oh, I have 5. You want
yeah,
all
that's
5
what
of my
you said.
affirmations?
5, yeah.
I have 5. So my first one's I have a millionaire mindset. And that comes from the T. Harv Eker book, Making a Millionaire Mindset. My second one is I will live a life where my heart, my head, and my relationships are in alignment. Super important. Heart is where I dream. It's where God puts vision. It's where you paint the picture of what your life is going to look like. Your head, unfortunately, is where your belief system is located. And if your mindset isn't where it needs to be, your heart will trip over your head and your mindset. And then what happens is if you dream and you don't see those things come to fruition, it robs the hope away from you. And scripture says, man, hope deferred makes the heart sick. And if you're wanting to accomplish things, but you're not seeing them happen because your mindset isn't where it needs to be, you've got to work on mindset. We're sitting here looking at all your triathlon or your Ironman stuff. Like
this was bullshit. I was looking for the outside validation. Now I tell you the truth, brother.
Yeah.
I need the outside validation. And I get the until I start validating myself from within, none of this shit works.
Yeah.
This what it was. It was truly.
Yeah. It's
like, look at it. You can
transfer that. You can transfer that same mindset that you took you to do that. You can transfer it when you get that mindset locked in on, okay, God, it goes back to our core 5 areas. And I say this all the time, you know, are you on a journey of becoming the best version of yourself in those core 5 areas? God, you've called me to do something great. I can dream it, but if I can't believe it, then what happens, and when you do get that in alignment, when you get your heart and your head in alignment, then what happens is God starts sending you the right relationships. You start having the right relationships in your life that you're like. And for me, relationships, when God sends people in your life, you go, okay, God, I'm on the right path. I'm doing the right thing, especially when he sends amazing human beings in your life that you literally can be vulnerable with and go, here's where I'm at. And then they can speak in your life. So that's 2. I am whole. I said that one. I am enough because I am his child. Yeah.
My book, Not Enoughness.
Yeah. I am enough because I am his child. Because, you know, growing up, when you've got trauma, parents got divorced. I went to 12 schools in 12 years and 6 different high schools. I was all over the place, man. And so I always felt like whatever I did wasn't enough. Whatever I did wasn't good enough. And so part of being a great entrepreneur is having some level of trauma where you don't give up. You just keep going and going and going and going. That's why you were good at doing the Ironmans, because I can't quit.
Yeah.
Like I need to do this. So that's my 4th one. And then my last one, oh, go ahead.
But you know, this is the reason we have so many suicides for men. 720,000 suicides a year, 545,000.
74% are men.
And those are men that are entrepreneurs. Not all of them, but big. It's men between 35 and 55. You know, because they at least right now I'm talking about myself, and you know now I open up and I'm vulnerable. Is that you know they're looking for the validation of the not enoughness. I'm not worthy. You know, the blame and the shame. You know, everything comes.
Well, something you said just a minute ago is when we have the aha moment of, oh, I'm not the only guy struggling with this.
Oh, hell no.
I'm not the only one. You get in a room and you go, dude, at my conference, I have one of my therapists speak at my conference every year. I got up on my stage with Lauren 2 years ago. I had Brenda Burchard there, Erwin McManus, Ed Milet, John, Gary Brecka. The number one session people talked about is when I got on stage with my therapist. And I walked through, and she started asking me relationship questions. And I walked through my whole journey of healing. There was not a dry eye in the place when we got done. And I told him, and I know this is part of what.
But you have to grow to be vulnerable.
Oh, 100%.
And you gotta be. It's like, you know. I just want to make sure whoever listens to this is like, don't just go to the bar and be vulnerable. It's like, dude,
you
it's
have
like,
to be vulnerable to the right people who can help you.
Yes.
Who can help you?
Goosebumps.
And it's a journey, just like training for Ironman. It's a journey. It's a process. And so I know one of the things for me, and I say this a lot, is therapy is like changing the oil in your car. You don't change the oil in your car when your engine locks up. It's too late. You change it every 5,000 to 7,000 miles, whatever the manufacturer says this is what you need to do. That's what therapy is. You're having somebody in your life who has a 10,000-foot view of what's going on in you, who can see things in you and share things with you that you go, I didn't see it that way, because we all have blind spots.
Ken, you got lucky with your therapist. You know, there are therapists and therapists, right? Mm-hmm. It's funny. I just said this on the podcast before. There are doctors and doctors, there are attorneys and attorneys. How do you know it's a good therapist?
Is there a connection? Do you connect? And I literally was walking a couple through this week about going to marriage counseling. And I said, and it may take you guys some time to find the right therapist. And it needs to be somebody that both of you.
How do you know?
There's a connection. There's a relation. Just like you and I, dude. As soon as we met just a while ago, I said, we're going to be friends. Mm-hmm. You just know.
The reason I'm challenging you, because what if I'm not connected with myself? Because you said it twice already in the last 20 minutes. You got to have a connection between your mind, something else, with your heart, with your soul, with your spirit. You got to have a connection. But, like I could not, like I have relationships, but I could not connect with anybody because I cannot connect with myself. So anybody that's listening is like, what does it mean, connection? What, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
like, look at, we just met, and I feel like I know you freaking for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's our bodies, the energy is like different. It's different. Yeah. But how do you know? Like, I know that because I've been, like, you know that. But how? Because there's so many young guys and so many people truly going to depression and killing themselves. Yeah. And sometimes we say something and they don't know what it means. They might be listening to us, but they don't understand. Yeah. Like, how do I know that I connected with the therapist?
Well, let me say this.
Tell me like a 10-year-old child.
If you lay your head on your pillow at nighttime and you're like, man, I don't know that this is the life I want to live, or I don't even know if I want to live. If you'll get to a place, especially in God, where you're like, God, whatever it takes for me, number one, to have fulfillment and meaning and purpose. Because you've heard the saying, there's purpose in your pain. I learned a long time ago that, man, if I walk through some pain, there's some purpose behind this pain. There's something, it's either something I've got to walk through, or there's somebody, Jarek, that I'm going to meet in the future that is going to walk through a similar pain, that I'm here to help them navigate through that pain in a quicker way. But I think on the connection side, once you get to a place in your life where you're like, I just want to be the best version of me. I just want to make a difference. I really want to help other people. I have a saying, I say this everywhere I go. It's my number one keynote I do across the country. Great leaders want something for people, not from people. And I think when you live that life,
say it again.
Great leaders want something for people, not from people. Dude, in this culture we live in,
dude, that's good.
Bro, it is like, people are like, what did you say? Because you want to cut through the noise of society today, be a leader that wants something for people, not from people. And as you take that journey to get there in your leadership and in your maturity as a man or a woman, you've already got to that point to where you are in that space in your life to where you're like, God, whatever it takes, I just want to become the best version of me. Whatever it takes, I want to be the best dad. I want to be the best husband. I want to be the best friend. Whatever that looks like. And when you're like, that's where you start. The connection with a therapist isn't just a connection the connection is, God, I just want to become the best version of me. And when you do that, and God, number one, Psalms 37, I was sharing it earlier, the footsteps of a righteous person are ordered by the Lord. God, you think this is an accident that I met you today? No. It's not an accident. God put this together. He knew exactly. You think it's an accident that I walk in Gary Brecka's townhome in May of 2021? Like literally I'd known Grant for about 5 months. Nobody even knew who Gary was. And I'm on the journey. I've lost 100 pounds of body fat. I don't know if you've seen my before and after picture, but it'll blow your mind where I'm at. You think it's an accident I met Gary 4 or 5 months into that journey? Of course not. We were texting yesterday. He's been a part of this entire health journey. He speaks at every event that I do on health. Who's the greatest person in the world to talk about health right now? It's Gary. There's nobody out there better than Gary.
Nope.
Nobody. Nope. Like it's
just so you know, I'm going to live 150.
He really believes in the next 15 to 20 years. It'll be 140 to 150.
Watch me.
Yeah.
He's my idol. I watch him and I listen and I'm like,
But my point in that, Jarek, is this. is when you get to a point in your life where you're like, God, I just want to be the best version of me, whatever that looks like. When you make that shift in your heart to do that, God will bring the right people in your life that you need. Heart, head, relationships. When I first did that affirmation 4.5 years ago, I wrote all these affirmations for me. To really, if you follow Joe Dispenza or any of these guys, I wrote these affirmations because of things I struggled with. So I literally get in the mirror every morning. Dr. Rob Kelly, who's one of my therapists in San Antonio, I get in the mirror and I'm like, Ken Joslin, I love you. Dude, I love it. I'll stare myself in the mirror and go, Ken Joslin, I love you, dude. I freaking love the way you're friends. I love the way you take care of you. I couldn't even do that 3 or 4 years ago when I first started. I was like, what?
No, you're talking to me, right? Yeah. You know, that's what I do every morning,
no,
right?
I had no idea.
Like, look at Jarek, I love you. I neglect you for so many years. Today, I'm going to put a good thought in you. I'm going to pray with you. I'm going to meditate with you. I'm going to put right, energy, right people, right food, and if anybody, it's like if you feel like every single morning, and I look straight into my eyes. Straight into my eyes. And the reason I do it, because when I was hitting the bottom of the bottom, when I was like, almost commit suicide, again, what happened is I did not look in the mirror for 6 months. I was shaving. I did not look in the mirror. Like I was so shamed, shameful. Like I couldn't even look at myself. And I neglected myself for now I talk to little Jarek all the time. Yeah. All the time.
Yeah. And it takes, again, it's just the process. So if you're watching this podcast or listening to this podcast today, it doesn't matter where you're at in the process. You just have to embrace, like, today is where I'm at. What does it look like? And I teach, get 1% better today. Just 1%. You don't have to get a ton better. It's incremental, not monumental. Small daily disciplined decisions over time always equal monumental results. Yeah. Success can escape you when you do the right things every single day.
And then in the 100 days, you have a time to screw up, so you can go from 100 to 10, and then you do it again and again, and then it just the raise and the standards just goes up and higher and higher. You talk about pain. My coach for 6 years was telling me, use your pain as a fuel. Use your pain as a fuel. And again, can you imagine 6 years? I heard this a million times. I have no idea what he meant. Yeah. No, 6 years. I paid him, and 6 years. When it hit me,
changed your life.
Like, seriously, 6 years? Like, it's like right now, like, I don't talk to myself like I'm a slow learner, I'm stupid, like, because your brain doesn't know the difference. So I don't talk like that anymore. But, because I talk to myself like shit. So now I don't do that. But, I can joke about it right now. But even in the jokes, your brain doesn't know. Because a lot of times we say something because, we want to take the power away from people for the level of power. But I don't talk like that to myself, like, because we feed our mind and our brain and our conscious, subconscious mind. So that's important to me. So let's go through pain a little bit more. Because now I do use pain as a fuel. And how do you use your pain? Like
I just, being a faith-based entrepreneur and a Christ follower, I know if something, again, Psalms 37, my footsteps are ordered by God. I know that if I go through something, God, number one, already knew I was going to go through it. And if I go through it, there's a reason why I'm going through that. And it's just like in my health journey. Like I crushed the gym this morning. I did a 20-minute Peloton back and buys. I was dying when I got done. Well, how do you build muscle? You tear old muscle fibers. And when you do that, you're building and getting stronger. And so I think when you walk through a painful moment, I had a painful moment this week. Like it was a hard moment. And I'm just like, I can choose to get triggered and react, or I can respond. And I just paused. I took some time to think about it. And then I'm like, okay, I'm not going to respond right now because I could feel my nervous system was regulated. I'm going to take some time and I'm going to respond the way that I need to respond. And so I think pain can trigger you to do different things. But I think if you use the pain the right way, Romans 8:28, all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. All things, pain, good times, bad times, sucky times, divorce, like all of those things, God can work those things together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. He can take those things and make those things beautiful. even when we don't understand, or even like, how can you take this moment in my life or this pain and make this beautiful?
I got a question for you. So, you know how when you go to the gym, right, or you do any physical activities, like you see the results, and you've been through it. I've been through it. In that, you know, when you have traumas, like you don't see the results. Like, you know, so you do the work. You see you smiling because you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because it's like how much longer? It's forever. Just whoever's listening, forever.
Yeah,
that's it, forever. But how do you stay like on the same track, like, you know, with the, let's say with the prayers, with the meditating, with the activities, with the food, with everything like that? How do you stay on track? Because this, for a long time, there's no result.
Right.
You know, at least because the devil comes into your head and it's like you think you did like I do so well, you know, and suddenly you go backward like shit, and then again and again and again and you smiling because you know it's hard, because it's easy to do something. Let's say you're reading the book, I'm on 100 page. In the healing and with the trauma, with all this pain, you know, the emotional pain, you don't see it, you cannot judge it. You know, it's like you swimming. Hey, you know, I did half a second later, you know, I'm biking. Tell me, like, how you deal with this, how you, because you get discouraged.
Of course you do.
You do get discouraged.
That's why you have to have great relationships. Like when I walked in today and you came and sat down, I said, Andy Sally told me to tell you, hey, and you lit up. Why? Because Andy's a great dude. And because I say this to a lot of people, when you walk into a room, do people gravitate towards you or away from you? When you're a life-giving human being, people want to be in your presence. And when you mention somebody that you have a great friendship, you have a co-friendship with somebody, and somebody lights up, you're like, dude, man, he's a great work to be that human being. So let me answer that question that you asked. Is this: we almost always underestimate what we can do, or overestimate what we can do in the short term, and almost always underestimate what we can do in the long term. Like, we live in a society now that's like, you got to have it now. You got to have it now. You got to have it now.
Notification is ridiculous.
Oh, and the reality of it is either if you get it instantly, it either doesn't feel like you thought it was, or it's not going to last.
Then there's no results.
That's right.
There's absolutely, if we get it too quickly, there is not enough pain, there's not enough reward. And, you know, that's what I was like, the people confusing the happiness with the pleasure. So I think the quick is the pleasure, you know, the quick hit, you know, the scrolling, the dopamine, the drugs, the alcohol, you know, sex, you know, porn, you know, this is all quick, even food. You know what I mean? It just gives, like, you know, like smoking cigarettes, like
food was my medication for a long time.
When did you realize you were self-medicated with food?
I
know the weight. I really like, you do look good, great. But I know how
I don't even know if it was a realization that food was a medication until I had an aha moment. I was umpiring college baseball, and I went to the SEC, ACC umpire camp. I had a couple buddies of mine that are in the big leagues that have been umpiring for 20 some odd years, several guys in the SEC, ACC, the top conferences for college baseball. And I went to camp, and I had a great camp. And I'll never forget, I had a conversation with one of the guys at the end who was a AA or AAA partner of my best friend when they were in the minor leagues together. And he said, Ken, you have a great rapport. You have great communication skills with the players and the coaches, but dude, you got to lose weight. And he goes, if you want to work Division I baseball, he said, we were surprised that you moved as good as you did on the field. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I went home. I got on the scale. I was 306 pounds, 306. I was huge. I took a picture of the scale. I took a before picture of me, and I put it on social media immediately. I literally said, I'm going to lose 66 pounds. And then when I got to 60, I made it 86 pounds. And then when I got to 80, I made it 106. And now I fluctuate between 90 to 100 pounds down body fat over the last 5 years. And then again, it's the journey, man. It's not about, when I met Gary, I was probably down about 32 or 33 pounds, and I had plateaued. I was stuck. And I met Gary. One of my buddies goes, hey, do you want to come? We're going to Gary Brecka's house. And Gary had never even spoke in public before yet. We're going over here, Gary. We're doing a Myers cocktail IV. So I went to Gary's house, and I'm sitting in Gary's living room at their place when they were living at the Porsche Design Tower. And Gary brings out this Google board. And he starts talking about all this medical stuff. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, Gary said stuff I'd never heard before. He was like, he said, I'll never forget when he said this. He said, if you came to me, hypothetically speaking, because you wouldn't, but you said, hey, I want you to put me on a diet that will guarantee I get diabetes in 5 years. He goes, again, you wouldn't do that, but if you did, I'd take you right to the U.S. Diabetes Association recommended diet, and I'd put you on the diet they say, and in 5 years you'll have diabetes. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? It's the journey. God brought Gary into my life when I needed Gary to be in my life. And I said, okay, Gary, here's where I'm at. And I walked him through my journey for the last 7 or 8 months. He goes, you need to go on keto. I said, well, tell me what keto is. I had no idea what keto was. And Gary, that was in May of 2021. I started keto. I did keto from May almost all the way through the end of the next January. I took a day off for Thanksgiving. I took a day off for Christmas. And I was locked in. And Gary and I, we just built a relationship through that entire time to where, hey, dude, I'm going to do an event in Atlanta, Create Conference. I'd love for you to come speak. And Gary's standing next to me. And this is when he just had started kind of taking off. And Gary stood next to me. I was launching my mastermind for the very first time. And Gary standing next to me, it was after his session. I said, hey, guys, we're going to launch this mastermind. I'd love for you to be a part. I think it was $35,000 for the year, blah, blah, blah. And Gary puts his arm around me. And he goes, if any of you join this mastermind with Ken, Sage and I are going to be a part. I'm going to oversee your health journey for the next 12 months. I looked at him and I went, what did you say? He goes, I'm going to oversee their health journey for the next 12 months. That's how we launched our mastermind. And Gary and Sage have been pretty much at everything that I've done the whole time. But it's the journey. And when you trust God, if it's faith, health, relationship, business, or finances, whatever one of those core 5 areas are, God will send you the right people that you need to get better in the area that you need. All you need is a heart that goes, okay, God, here I am. What do you need to do in me? I'm open to it.
If it comes to journey, I always tell people, don't look for shortcuts because it's not about the journey, it's who you become on the journey. You know what I mean? Because it's like the hardest journey is like, I have a friends or anybody, it's when you're going to, let's say, do Ironman. I'm like, when you hit there, you're going to be depressed. How can I be depressed? I've done an Ironman. Because right now it's something that's completely unachievable. When you get there, it's a finish line. You're going to be like, what next? There's nothing there.
Right.
And when I like people quitting jobs and opening businesses, I'm like, I'm praying you so it gets harder. Yeah, like, why are you so mean? I'm like, why get harder? Because I need you to learn the lessons on the beginning. I need you to become the person in order to be successful in the business. When you get lucky, and we get lucky because, you know, when you're not sitting in a chair in the sofa and watching TV, when there's any movements, you know, then what happens is you get lucky. And, you know, we got to grow to it because if you told me 6 years ago, yeah, like, you're lucky, I was like, I'm not lucky. You have no idea how hard I work. Yeah. Bullshit. You know, and I love what you just said, that then you meet the people.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that you got to become the person in order to attract the right 100%. People.
So when I did that affirmation, heart, head, that was my affirmation. Heart and my head are in alignment. Dream, believe. And then what happened when I started to believe, I could see what God put in my heart, and I started seeing things come to fruition. Then he started sending the right people in my life. And when he did that, then I changed my affirmation to heart, head, and relationships. Because I realized real quick, Jarek, that the more I got my heart and head in alignment, the more people God sent in my life to help me do what he's called me to do. And he'll do that for anybody. That's a beautiful thing about God. He's like, if you'll just, again, I shared this on that call earlier today.
That's why we sometimes we have to go through the bad people too in order to realize.
And sometimes you do. And sometimes there are people who come in your life and you're not ready for them.
Am I delusional? Because I said we just sometimes we meet those people in order to just remind us that we're still not there. We still got a lot of work to do. So just a reminder where you're going. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh no, I don't want to go there. Let's go this way. So we know which door, like, redirect.
Yeah,
redirect it.
It's God's. It's listen. If you trust the journey, and you trust the process of becoming, who does Jarek need to become? Who does Ken need to become to fulfill the purpose that God put in me and created me to have? And when you get to that point, I said this on this call today. I said this in my entire series on my online coaching group last month. I said it's our job to be obedient. It's God's job. It's God's job to build your business. God's the one that sends you people. It's not you. You be obedient and you do the things God's asking you to do. And then it's his job to send you the people to be able to build your business. And it takes this weight off your shoulders of trying to build whatever it is you're wanting to build. Okay, God, I just have to be obedient. What are you telling me to do today? Who are you putting in my life? Who are the relationships that you want in my life to help me get to the next level?
So I got a question for you. And that's for me, not for you guys, but I know you can relate to that. I still struggling. It's been years with surrender.
Yeah.
Because I'm a control freak and I want to control. And you know, like, yeah, surrender to the faith, surrender to God, and I was still struggling. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm surrendering, but on my terms. Mm-hmm. And then backfires. Yeah. I'm control freak. Yeah. You know what I mean? There was so much stuff going on in the way I grew up and everything, the way I built myself is truly to control it. And now I know, like, since I surrender, you know, it's the abundance comes, the love comes, everything. It's like it's like the flow. I connected with my soul, with my spirit, you know, my mind, and it's like it's fucking amazing.
I heard John Maxwell 25 years say, his professor at seminary told him, it's like you take a coin. Whatever your strength is on one side of the coin, the flip side of that coin is also your biggest weakness. What makes you a great entrepreneur is you want to control things. What makes you a great Christ follower is you have to say, okay, God, I'm going to trust. And it's a journey. It's a journey in learning how to trust him. It's just a journey. And where it's people will come to me, and I had somebody call me this week and they were like, here's where I'm at. And I got this going on and this going on and this going on. And I just looked at them and I went, okay, you're exactly where you should be. Look at all the stuff you've went through in your life. You shouldn't be any different than you are right now. So why beat yourself up because of where you're at? Just look at your past and go, okay, God, this is the hand I was dealt, fair or unfair. This is what I was dealt. Okay, God, what do you want to make out of this? What do you want my life to look like? And give yourself, because here's the thing, the way that we give grace and forgiveness to others is usually the way we give grace and forgiveness to ourselves.
Yeah, I think I really do think it starts within us.
100%.
And what happened is that faith, it helped me to have a back faith in me because I lost it. I lost it both because, you know, I also blame God for a lot of shit, but then I become a pompous ass and I thought that I'm the God. Yeah. You know, I thought that I got it, you know, until I figured out, no, I don't get it. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I got it. Oh, poof, no, I don't get it.
Like,
yeah. So going back, I really want it because it's like, it's going to help me with the surrender. How do I, like, give me a suggestion with the work I can do, like, because I pray a lot, I meditate a lot, I read the Bible, and it's funny, I have this Bible and the surrender experiment, and, you know, I have some issues with the Interpol, and in Poland, and there's like, you know, the court is not open till 10 a.m., so we got to keep you, and I was like, okay, can I have from my backpack, can I have the Bible? And then, so I was like, yeah, you know, so they give me a Bible and I'm pulling my eyeglasses and they said, nah, I mean, come on, you know, you got it, right? And look at the Bible, it's such a small font. So I pulled the other book, the Surrender Experiment. And I'm like, and I'm reading this like Saturday night all the time, you know, uninterrupted, right? And I'm reading it and I'm like, and I have the book for like a month. I'm like, God, you didn't have to lock me in, man, in order to read the book. So in like, you know, when I was there like 10 hours, you know, so I read the book like almost twice because there was so much aha moments. And when I go to the flow, that's what I surrender because I like, and that's where the abundance comes. That's where the freedom comes. That's when the peace comes.
Because you trust him.
Yes.
You're like, okay, God, I'm going to trust you.
But a lot of times, like, no, I got to control this. Like, let's say, even in the business, when I surrender, they're suddenly like, boom, when I retire, suddenly all the shit start coming. It's like, where were you guys when I was like really pushing and grinding? And it's like, because when we push and grind, this is like nothing is happening because it's so fake. Yeah. When you let it go, and I know, I'm telling you, see, I'm being a hypocrite because I'm still struggling. You know what I mean? And it's like, boom, then it goes.
Guess when you'll stop struggling?
When you surrender.
You're still going to struggle when you go to heaven. Right. When you go to heaven, you won't struggle anymore. But on this side, you're going to struggle because you're flesh, because you're a man. I tell people in theology, what I learned in Bible college is we're born into the curse of Adam, which would be sin. And people are like, what does that mean? I'm like, how many of you guys have 2-year-olds in the audience? How many of you guys had to teach your 2-year-old to snatch a toy out of another kid's hand and go, mine? You don't have to teach that. We're born with that in us. That's why we needed Jesus to do what he did for us. And I mean, I don't care how sanctified you are. I don't care how much you read your Bible, how much you pray. You still live in a flesh and bone body, and you're still going to struggle. And it is a daily journey of surrender. It's not I surrender one time and I'm done. No. It's a daily journey of surrendering. To go back to what you said just a minute ago about the business side, that's why when you think about it from the standpoint of it's my job to be obedient, it's God's job to build my business. I don't have to control. I can let that go and go, okay, God, I'm going to do everything I can. Doesn't mean I'm going to be lazy. Doesn't mean I'm not going to do everything and bust my ass and do all the stuff I have to do. I'm going to do all those things, but I'm going to be obedient. God, you bring the people in my life that I need for you to be able to build this business.
Can we do a lot without people?
You can't do anything without people. You can't. You can't do anything. In my new book, Proximity is a Cheat Code. It literally is the word. It's funny because when I was doing this book, Proximity is a Cheat Code. I don't know if you ever played Nintendo back in the day. We had this game called Contra on the old Nintendo. This is like 25 years ago. And I'll never forget, we walked into, and some of you young guys in here, y'all be like, but that's old school Nintendo. And I walked into Blockbusters, back when Blockbuster was this was like in the early 90s. Before the internet, before cell phones. And I walked into Blockbuster and we're getting the Contra game. I couldn't afford to buy it, so we had to rent it every weekend. And I'm renting the game and I take it up there and this kid from Blockbuster goes, dude, there's a cheat code. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, when you start the game, when the start screen comes up, it's left, right, up, down, B-A, start. And it gives you unlimited lives. And you can win the game because we could never win the game. And relationships are a cheat code. Like the relationships you have in your life are life's cheat code. And when I've been doing this talk on proximity as a cheat code forever. But the word proximity, like when you use a key fob, there's a 21-bit proxy code that's in that key fob or that card reader. And with that proxy code, those frequencies match up with that reader on the door. Guess what happens? That door opens up and you go into the next level. And it's the same way in life. Who are the relationships you need? And I could sit here and name them off over. We finished Create in 2022, first one I ever had. We had about 160 people there. John Maxwell was there. Jesse Itzler came in. Gary and Sage were there. Some of Anthony Trucks, Carla. I had an amazing conference. And I'm standing in the shower on Sunday morning at the house, and I'm just overwhelmed with how good God is. And God goes, your word for the year is intentional. And so I wrote, intentionality was my word for 2022. And so I went to 4 relationships and I said, I want to take our relationship to the next level. I said, I'm willing to invest 3 things into our relationship to take them to the next level. My time, my talent, and my treasure. And Brian Covey, Senior Vice President for Cross Country, Cross Point Mortgage, $5.2 billion last year. Randy Garn.
I know Brian Covey.
Oh, he's one of my closest friends.
Brian, I know Brian.
Yeah, he's one of my closest friends. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so Brian's one of my guys. I talked to him 2 days ago. Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it?
We went to when I got a wake-up call. I went to the Brotherhood. He was with my boot camp with me.
Yeah.
8 years ago, a month ago.
Brian's my guy. And so Brian just left Revolution Mortgage and went over to Cross Country, Cross Point, whatever he's at now. And literally I walked him, I helped him navigate through that whole journey. He's like, hey man, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? And I'm like, the leadership where he was at, it wasn't challenging him enough. And I finally said, dude, you have to make the decision. But if you know in your heart this isn't where you need to be, then you have to make the move. So Brian Covey, Randy Garn, Randy's in Salt Lake City. He's on Tony Robbins' board. Randy's one of my closest friends on the planet. Gary Brecka, and then Brent Gove. Brent's the number one agent with EXP. He's got 40,000 agents under him right now. I went to all 4 of these men, and I said, here's what I'm willing to do. I'm going to invest my time, which means I'm going to travel to you. I've been to Salt Lake City to see Randy, 5 times a year. Gary Brecka, I've been everywhere with Gary. I come to Miami. I went to the Fontainebleau grand opening last year with them. They come up in my area and hang out. Brian Covey, I've been in Nashville several times to meet with Brian. And then Brent Gove lives in Puerto Rico now. I've been down there twice just to spend 3 or 4 days with him.
You know, Brent is in my group. We said it.
Are you in Tony's Zenith group? Yeah. I did not know that. I knew Andy was in it. Brent and Kathy are 2 of my closest. I will tell you, they just sent me a text yesterday. Had no idea, Brent and Kathy. They're 2 of my favorite people on the planet.
That was like a month ago.
Yeah, he sent me tons of pictures. The one that Jordan Peterson was at.
Yeah.
He sent me Jordan Peterson pictures, then a book. Somebody, I don't remember. I have to look on my text. Yeah, that's crazy. We'll FaceTime when we get off here. They'll love that. Yeah. So I went to all 4 of these guys. And I said, I'm going to invest my time, my talent, my treasure. My time, I'm going to calendar time to come to you. My talent, I'm a connector. Who do you need to know? So Brent does Build. He did do Build in Dallas, which is his largest event, 4,000 people. I got him connected with Randy, which then got him connected with Tony, which then got him connected with Dean Graziosi. I got him connected with Gary. He met Gary at my first mastermind I ever did. We're at a house. Brent, Kathy, myself, Gary Brecka, Sage, there's 20 of us at my very first mastermind, May of 2022, 3 years ago. 3 years ago, like this month, we were all together for my first mastermind I ever did. And I said, so my time, my talent, who do I know that you need to know so I can connect you? And then my treasure. All my guys that do events, I buy whatever the front row seat is. I don't ask for discounts. I don't do any of that stuff. When Brent does his event, I buy a front row seat. I'm on the phone. I've got Gary Brecka, Dr. T, and Dr. Rob Kelly on a Zoom. I'm introducing all 3 of these guys together. They didn't know each other. And I said, Gary, you need to know these guys. I get on a call. This was 3 years ago. And I get on a call with these guys. And Gary says, he goes, are you coming to GrowthCon this year? I said, I'm not 100% sure. I said, are you speaking? And dude, Gary he goes, man, I'm speaking on Friday afternoon. Grant's giving me 90 minutes. I can't wait. And I'm like, dude, I wouldn't miss it for the world. I said, what's the date? He goes, April the 16th. I'm like, holy shit. Like, I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, and I'm like, dude, I wouldn't miss it for the world. I just the day before had bought front row tickets to go see Eric Church in concert the same day. So I had to sell my tickets to go see Eric Church. I called Jim Morales, who's the CFO for Grant. And I said, hey, Jimmy, I think I've got a $10,000 credit in my account. I need a diamond seat for GrowthCon. And so when Gary came out of the shoot that year, out of the thing, it was when they had it in the round. He had to walk down that long thing. I'm in the second row, and you can watch. As soon as he sees me, Gary comes right to me and gives me a big hug. And he goes on stage and kills it. So time, talent, and treasure. And then after that, the next year, I invited Vic Keller. Vic sold 11 companies to Buffett in 2017, and then he was for a ton of money. And then was the CEO for Berkshire Hathaway Automotives. Vic came. I met Vic. Same thing. My buddy was one of his CGOs at one of his companies that he owns, and we get on a call, and Vic, it was a 15-minute call, just like this, 15-minute call, and we just connected. We talked for an hour and 27 minutes, and Vic kept, dude, how can I help you? How can I help? I said, Vic, I don't need anything from you, dude. Let's just build a relationship. So I invite him to come to our mastermind. The next mastermind we did that year was in Scottsdale in November of 2022. Brent and Kathy are there. Brian Covey's there. Like all my guys are there. Everybody's there. Gary and Sage are there. Everybody's there. And so Vic goes, I'll come. So he flies in on Tuesday. He goes, I'll give you one day. I said, great. So he flies in on Tuesday and winds up staying. Now he's at everything that I do all the time. Well, he gets there. And he gets up to speak. I said, you've got 45 minutes, second session. So he gets up to speak and he goes, hey, I need everybody to turn your phones off, if you will, put them face down. We can't record this. I'm like, okay. So I looked at my videographer. I said, you got to turn the cameras off. And he gets up and he goes, I just flew in from Omaha. He goes, I spent the weekend with Mr. Buffett. I had dinner at his house on Sunday. And I want to take my 45 minutes and I want to tell you everything I've learned from Warren Buffett over the last 7 years. Bro. You could have heard a pin drop in the room. But it's time, talent, and treasure. And so
sometimes we got to be at the right moment, but in order to be at the right place, we got to attract the right people.
And the way you attract them is you have a heart of, how do I become better today? God, what do you have for me? Who do I need to become so I can experience and fulfill the purpose that you've created in me? And so I had that text thread going with the 4 of us, with us 5. And then I added Vic that next year, and we're still on the text thread today for 4 years. 3.5, 4 years we've been on the text thread.
So what is the next for Ken?
Learning how to grow our team so we can make just a bigger impact and a bigger difference. That's it, man. It's just in connecting people. I'd connect you, but heck, everybody I know you know already. You already know them all. It's just, I think you get to a point in your life to where you're like, okay, God, who are the people that I enjoy doing life with? And that can get behind the mission and the vision of what I'm doing, and vice versa. I can get behind the mission and the vision of what they're doing, and we take each other to the next level. And I think that's it.
I think when, I learned the hard way, because I always say that you get a lot faster alone, but you get a lot farther with people. And I have this mindset that everybody's out there, because I was so fortunate, so young, that everybody's out there to get from me. Mm-hmm. And until, I hit the bottom of the bottom, I realized that I got to give. And then, it took years to chisel the wall back down, and every time I felt uncomfortable, I built it back up, But what happened is when I close it, the wall, I close all the pain also. Every time I put the wall down, I run into the people and that I could be vulnerable, and they were just helping me through their faith, through their experience, through their, what they've been through. And it's just, it works. But then the old Jarek was coming in, and we don't like this. We build it back up. So now I see it that when you build, you get a lot farther, and you get the right people, and it's just like you all grow. You cannot just do alone. Mm-hmm. Like whoever's listening, it doesn't matter how old are you, even if you were like me, until the 48, 50 years old, I did it alone. That shit doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't work, because I accomplish more, not only living it with the right partner, but I accomplish more in the last 2, 3, 4 years than I accomplished last 30. That doesn't even compare, and it's like a compound. And it's like I'm very grateful, and it's a grace, but I'm like, what did I do to deserve this? Like how? But
there's a purpose, though. Yeah, all right. There's a purpose, because what God's done in your life, He wants you to take. That's why you're doing this podcast. That's why I texted you the other day and said, dude, I love what you're talking about, because what you're talking about, most people aren't talking about. Most people are just talking about how you can be successful in business. Or here's how I took my company from this to this. And you're going, shit, you can take your company from this to this, but if you don't fix this internal stuff, you're in trouble.
But that's why we call it inner wealth. Yeah. Because I think the inner wealth is a lot more important than outer wealth, because I did I did the other way around. Yeah. And it doesn't work. Yeah. When you build yourself, it's like we are born with everything. And then, that's where the abundance comes. That's where the flow comes. That's where the connection comes. Mm-hmm. It's right there. But it's not out there. There's not enough medals, not enough competition, not enough, even you can go on stages, if you transactional, you can go on stages, and after, like my best stage ever, it was the first stage.
Yeah.
And I screw up so much, you have no idea. Like I fucked the shit up. You know what I mean? And this was the best stage. It doesn't matter if it's 1 million people and 10 million. Yeah. When you do this, I want to speak in front of 10,000 people, 100,000 people. If that's your goal, you're going to get there and you're going to feel unfulfilled. Right. The numbers, the same thing with the business, 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, 1 billion. It's never. It's if you leave yourself out of it, the inner wealth, when there's a huge difference between the inner and outer wealth, this was going to happen, it's going to happen to me. You break. Mm-hmm. And all the shit you work for, it's gone. Mm-hmm. But, we cannot forget about ourselves. Like right now, like in my life, God is first. Mm-hmm. Okay? And then after God, it's me. Mm-hmm. it never was like that. It was, well, there was a time that there was no God, but it was like my kids, my wife, my employees, my parents, my brother, sister, everybody. And then I was last. And then if there was a room, there was a God. Yeah, higher power. Yeah, God exists. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Until I switched everything around. Yeah. And it took work, and it's still taking work. That's why I read Bible. That's why I pray. Yeah. It doesn't stop. Yeah. But like I told you, even the businesses, but a lot of people don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Because I can sell the 10,000 tickets if I tell how much you make it in real estate from 0 to 100 million.
Yeah.
And then everybody, well, fuck that shit. I pay for this shit. Yeah. But I want to talk about the inner world, about about the prayers, meditation, and the mindset. It's the mindset will sell, but people don't want to hear it until they go through so much freaking pain. They're fucking sick of it, and it's like, I'm done.
Well, and they're going through it and they're looking for answers because so many people are quiet, Jarek. They won't talk about it. And when God takes somebody like you and gives you a platform through your business to then speak to entrepreneurs and the pain and the trauma that they went through, bro, your impact and the difference you're making is going to be far greater than anything you've ever done in business.
I think so. Yeah. It's fulfilling.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And also that we don't talk enough about depression, about therapy, because they think it's even like I'm trying to break the stigma. That's what we do on March 21st, right? March 21st, 2026, we do the mental awareness march. I want to bring the awareness to mental health because it's the stigma. Because if you say mental health, people think there's something wrong with you.
Right, that's exactly right.
But it's not. We all go through the same struggle. It's a mind health, brain health. So I want to bring the stigma, especially for men, because you know how many divorces happens, deal with that, the kids deal with the generational trauma. And the most important, the functional depression, brother. You good, dude. I mean, look at you go to work, you show up at home, and how many times you go through it and you don't know there's something wrong with you until something bad happened. You lose a kid, you lose a wife, you get divorced, something, health-wise, your body break in, and nobody talks about it. Functional depression, like what? Suicide, nobody talks about it. Like they're talking about cops killing other people, but they're not talking about cops killing cops themselves. Because they've seen all this shit and they don't know how to deal with that. And there's nothing wrong with us. We all go through it. And that's my goal. Like there's no goal like in Iron Man pressing the finish line. Brother, there's 8 billion people. You know how many people? We can help all of them. It will happen? No. Even I think if we help with this content, if we help one, brother, we made it.
But I love what you said just a minute ago. You talked about fulfillment. And I mentioned this on that talk I did this morning. It doesn't matter when you lay your head down on the pillow at nighttime and you have a high level of fulfillment. There's no zero, there's no comma, there's no possession. There's nothing that equals knowing, okay, God, you use me in a big time way today. You're using me in my life right now to impact and help other people in their life. That level of fulfillment, dude, it's a different thing.
And I want to end on that because I just want to how much I appreciate it, how much I agree with your statement, because there's no amount of houses, jets, money in the bank account. There is no amount of businesses that can fulfill and give you the fulfillment.
Yeah.
There's nothing out there.
Yeah.
Brother, thank you very much. I appreciate everything.
We're going to call Brian. We're going to call Britt and Kathy.
But I need you to tell, guys, please, we're going to put the links underneath, but please tell guys where to find you, how to follow you. And
hey, guys, Ken Joslin on Instagram at Ken Joslin or growstackdrive.com /free. Jump in our free community. Got a ton of all of our Create conferences, all the recordings with good friends like Brendan and John and Ed and all the different guys, Gary Brecka. Love for you to jump on there and grab that content. Absolutely free.
Thank you for listening. Leave your comments and subscribe for more insights on mastering the inner and outer wealth.